Amid the pandemic and natural disasters, the Chinese regime continues its crackdown on Christianity. Recently, a church was demolished because authorities claimed it was too eye-catching.
It might take years for Christians in China to get construction of their church approved by officials, but it took only a few seconds for the regime to demolish it. With the pandemic, widespread flooding, and growing international pressure following the regime's virus cover-up, Chinese officials have plenty to keep them busy. But that's not stopping their persecution of people of faith. According to a report by Bitter Winter magazine, Chinese authorities have recently demolished or shut down several churches. One of them was criticized by officials for being unlicensed and too eye-catching. Another, after being forced to close in May, was converted into a party members' activity center. The church's cross was replaced with the regime's red flags and propaganda posters. The destruction comes as authorities have ramped up their control over churches in recent years. In addition to traditional crackdown methods, like arresting pastors and burning churches, the regime has also taken up a new approach. Since late last year, it's been demanding that all churches subscribe to Chinese Communist Party's newspapers like the People's Daily. A clergy member told Bitter Winter that the church feels the subscription violates their beliefs, and no one reads them, but they have to do what the government tells them to evade persecution. Earlier this year, a church in central China was destroyed for refusing to raise the communist regime's flag. It was built over $4 million worth of funding, all donated by local parishioners. Chinese authorities had also previously forced churches and religious believers to replace images of the cross with portraits of communist leaders Xi Jinping and Mao Zedong. Bitter Winter reported that in the first quarter of the year, Chinese authorities removed crosses from at least 250 churches in one southern province alone. Even though religious freedom was written into Chinese constitution in 1982, churches are illegal in the country, except for the state-run 3 self-patriotic churches. They are led by the so-called 3 Self-Patriotic Movement Committee. According to their chapters, the churches are under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Government. They pledge to love the socialist motherland and actively participate in the construction of a socialist society with Chinese characteristics. The 3 self-patriotic churches were created in the 1950s by Wu Yaozong. He had vowed that members of the church would break away from Western imperialism and actively join the Korea War to resist what he called U.S. aggressions. Members of the 3 self-churches were once found to be dressed in the Communist Party's Red Army uniforms when visiting one of the regime's wartime bases. Penny Zhou, NTD News.